We got some guy named Ron, or James, or Ryan, or Ren on deck. So today, man, listen, you guys asked for this. You guys have asked for this. This is a weird situation to be in because normally I drop a song and I see comments like, well, who's going to break this one down? And then people were like, well, why don't you break this one down? So we do have Ren on this, and we react to a lot of Ren. So we're going to support Ren. And then we have this other guy who tries to make words rhyme with his mouth, and yeah, he's a clown. But anyways, we'll try to deal with him and his lyrics as well. So this is Knox and Ren, Fentanyl. But listen, before we go any further, guys, my brand new album, Chaos Theory 2, is out right now. If you want to get yourselves a copy, it's on all streaming platforms, or you can get it direct from me. Support independent music. You get bonus tracks if you get it from my website, the digital album. You also get signed physical CDs. We got this song with Ren on it. We got a feature with Victus. We got King Crooked. We got King Moses. We got Lex Bratcher. We got so many amazing artists. 18 tracks, jam-packed album. Yeah, I'm so excited to share this with the world. It's killing it right now. But if you want to support me, if you want to go cop Chaos Theory 2, all links will be down there. But anyways, what we're here for. Ren and some other guy step up to the plate. Let's see what you got.
Conscious rap was vibing, but they said it wasn't selling. So instead of tribe, the question was for highs. I guess I get it. But we sold our de la souls and reassigned the proper metrics. Violent rap survived and Darwinized the prophet zealots. Survival of the fittest. Trade your bars for gems and you'll be shining. That's the realest. In this climate of addiction style, Big Pharma is the realest. Now as long as pills are filling, you ain't really gotta feel the sound. The world is full of juice, and while you floating, you've been finna drown. How many rappers out here missing out? But they sell you with this vision and this fear of missing out. The industry will fuck us, so we follow what is trending. Brag about these hollow tips, but it's all hollow tip dependent. I lace my verse with fentanyl and lean into attention. Toe tags for the mentions, body bags for what they spending. While they bragging, we descended from the ground, we all descendants now. Sinners don't sleep in.
I love just some of these editing cuts. They sync so well with what's happening with the instrumentation. I just want to shout out Ruben because we were going to drop this later than we thought. And then Ren's laptop got fried, and we had a conversation because when he was supposed to drop the song with his sister, he had to change and move that. So all of a sudden, we had a much shorter window, and literally on that Monday, I had no music video ready. And we have the green light that we're going to drop on Friday. So it's like, wow, we better get our shit together. And pulling all-nighters just back and forth constantly with the edits. This was like edit 40, 41. I mean, it was crazy. But we just wanted to make sure that the devil was in the details. And every single cut, every single just syncing of what is hitting and what's being presented where, it was all discussed. It was all talked about because we really wanted this video to do the song justice. And just to speak a little bit more on the visuals, and then I'll jump into the lyrics too.
The question was for highs, I guess I get it. But we sold our de la.
If you see, we filmed a lot of this in black and white. And our conversation going into this was, we know that we have a song that's dedicated to my cousin. And we know that there's a very visceral, very raw story that's being told here. And the question was, do we tell that story visually? And for me, the answer was no. I didn't want to directly tell that story visually through the video. We've done it on other tracks, storytelling tracks like The Pot and the Kettle, for instance, Family Curse. We told more of it visually, but for me, this was so recent. This was so raw. It just didn't feel right. Like what, get an actor to come in and play my cousin or even have me play the role? No, that didn't feel like the right direction to go with this. And I think that the lyricism and the narrative speaks loud enough for itself. We were able to go a different direction with what we want to do with the visuals. So for us, let's go more artistic. Let's go a little bit more abstract in places, right? Let's just have different cut-ins and different shots that can enhance the lyricism, but don't take over the lyricism. And that's kind of why we did this. And we have some plays on colors, and I'll get into it when we get into the blues later and we get into the reds. But the black and white for me has that very film noir artistic feel, but it also has that nostalgic feel, especially for this first verse too, when I'm talking about like classic 90s conscious hip-hop, the Tribe Called Quest, the De La Souls. All right, let's get into the lyricism.
It wasn't selling, so instead of tribe, the question was for highs. I guess I get it. But
instead of tribe, the question was for highs. Obviously, a shout out to Tribe Called Quest, but then we had a new quest for highs. And I start to introduce this theme of drug use, of big pharma, the highs of record sales, but also like chasing the drug highs. Instead of Tribe Called Quest, which gave us that more socially conscious form of hip-hop, we started to get hip-hop that was glorifying drug dealing, glorifying drug use. You had a lot more violent gangster rap come into play. And for me, like, you look at what many people consider the golden era of hip hop. But you look at the artists at the time who were at the top, the Tribes, the De La Souls, the KRS-Ones, the Poor Righteous Teachers, the Public Enemies. I mean, I could go on and on. They gave you a conscious brand of hip hop because that's what hip hop was, right? It was a means of social change. It was the opportunity for people who didn't have a voice to now have a voice. And these underprivileged, primarily black communities, it gave so many people a voice of empowerment, of change. It gave a voice to the community. And that's what the music represented. And then lo and behold, obviously, it starts to gain mainstream appeal and success. And then you have all these record label execs. You have all these people come in who start making decisions on hip hop, who start making decisions on the artists that they're going to promote, who didn't come through the culture, who weren't fans of it originally, who don't understand it. They're disconnected from it. All they care about is the highs of sales. All they care about is consumerism and giving you a marketable product. And what sells? Sex, drugs, violence. I mean, the same old theme that you find in any genre, in any industry, right? Those are just the tried and true methods of sales. People love that. They love that controversy, that drama. But also, they could love other things, but this is what gets packaged. This is what gets sold. This is what gets presented to them as what's hip, as what's trending, as what you need to listen to and follow.
The question was for highs, I guess I get it. But we sold our De La Souls and reassigned the proper metrics. Violent rap survived and Darwinized the prophet zealots.
Violent rap survived and Darwinized the prophets zealots. Survival of the fittest. Shout out Mobb Deep, survival of the fittest, baby. But also, Charles Darwin, evolution, survival of the fittest. In this case, it was because hip hop has always been competitive too, right? Survival of the fittest. The most gangster, the biggest flexing type of artists, type of raps. That was survival of the fittest. That is what outlasted the more conscious artists and became more popular in the mainstream. So I'm flipping that. And then you see like different shots of like apex predators happening and like survival of the fittest in the jungle and the concrete streets.
Addiction style, big pharma is the realest now. As long as you'll be shining, that's the realest. In this climate of addiction style, big pharma is the realest now. As long as pills are filling, you ain't really gotta feel the sound.
Trade your bars for gems and you'll be shining. That's the realest. Trade your bars in this conscious hip hop for the sales, for the gems. And how do we rank a lot of records? Through gems when it goes diamond, right? Trade your bars for gems. But I also wrote this in a way, and I don't know if I can give myself the slant rhyme or not, because I ended up wanting to just lean more on gems instead of like slant enunciating it from gems, because I've done it before on bars, trade your bars for the gems, right? Bars in the gym, but also tying in with like survival of the fittest and this like very masculine, physical, aggressive style.
The world is full of jewels. Now, as long as pills are filling, you ain't really gotta feel the sound.
And as long as pills are filling, you ain't really gotta feel the sound. Why can't you feel it? Because you're on painkillers, so you can't feel it anyways. But also, you don't have to feel the sound, right? As long as pills are filling up, who cares, right? You don't have to use your brain. You don't have to think. You're being packaged a different type of music.
Big Pharma is the real.
And I want to shout out Rom. Also want to shout out Vibe Reactions. I haven't seen all the reaction channels yet, but there were a few of those dudes who were definitely catching on. And they were catching on to like my East Coast conscious hip hop vibes that I was shouting out. And they took time to break down this first verse because for me, this first verse is important. Like normally when I do storytelling tracks or I lay it out, originally I was going to go tell the story of my cousin. And then we tell it from his perspective. And then the third verse is kind of when I put a bow on top of things, right? When I take a real life story or I take a personal experience and then how do I apply it to the state of hip hop? How do I apply it to a greater theme and a greater message of change that I want to bring you? My own brand of conscious rap and hip hop. But it's interesting with this track because we kind of flipped it all around. Instead of having that be the final verse, that more like conscious societal, like landscape look, wide angle view of everything happens in the very first verse. And this is when I lay down my critique and my commentary and my lyrics that I want to get you thinking.
Now as long as you'll be shining, that's the realest. In this climate of addiction style, Big Pharma is the realest. Now as long as pills are filling, you ain't really gotta feel the sound. The world is full of juice, and while you floating, you've been finna drown. How many rappers out here missing out?
The world is full of juice, sipping on this juice, glorifying lean in the styrofoam cups, but also rest in peace, 999 to Juice WRLD. How many rappers out here missing now? It's a smooth double. And you hear that choir effect? Sure. That's when REN came in, and REN added that. That's that same choir chanting that he used in his Kujo beatdown. So, hey, I'm privileged to have a link to that Kujo beatdown dropped into this. And then when Ren obviously doubles this and you hear his voice, we were in studio working on this together. And that was my idea. Like, yo, like, let's introduce you a little bit earlier than the hook. Because I feel like this is a chance speaking out on how many rappers missing out. This is a message that we both stand for. And we, you know, it's two rappers coming together speaking on this. Let's use this as an opportunity. So it was an important line to highlight for me. And this is why that's his mouth, but we haven't revealed him yet. So he's like the shadowy figure that you have right here for this line.
It's full of juice, and while you floating, you've been finna drown. How many rappers out here missing out? But they sell you with this vision and this fear of missing out. The industry will fuck us, so we follow what is trending. Brag about these hollow tips, but it's all hollow tip dependent. I lace my verse with fentanyl and lean into attention. Toe tags for the...
Obviously, how many rappers are messing? And you have this tie-in because there's sort of two themes, right? There's my critique of the industry and the hip-hop industry, but then that transfers over and ties in with Big Pharma. And for me, how does this tie in with Big Pharma? Well, take a look at it. You take a look at the celebration of like lean, of codeine culture, of drug use culture, of SoundCloud rappers who are addicted, rapping about their addictions all the time and like promoting this lifestyle. And the thing is that if you're an artist who's starving and you're coming up and you'll do anything to make it, well, you're going to pay attention to what's trending and you're going to follow what is trending because you're like, well, that's the formula that these dudes have used to make it and to get out of their situations. I'm going to do it too. And round this cycle continues. But lo and behold, you have like the Juices and the Mac Millers, you know, who they talk about this drug lifestyle in this culture, but at the same time, it's been incredibly harmful to their health and to their careers, and rest in peace. And it's a cynical, cyclical, round and round the merry-go-wheel we go of this drug use and glorifying it and celebrating it.
Hollow tip dependent. Fuck us, so we follow what is trending. Brag about these hollow tips, but it's all hollow tip dependent. I lace my verse with...
Brag about these hollow tips. Again, hollow tips tying back in with like the gangster, more violent raps, but it's all hollow tip dependent. And shout out to Rom, he caught this too back in the day. Hollow tips, man, used to call them dum-dums, right? Dum-dums. It's all hollow in terms of what we're doing and how we dip the pen because there's no substance to the lyricism and what we're talking about.
Fentanyl and leaning about these hollow tips, but it's all hollow tip dependent. I lace my verse with fentanyl and lean into attention.
I lace my verse with fentanyl and lean into attention to get attention, to follow what's trending. Like these other dudes talking about lean, glorifying this lifestyle, right? I'm lacing it with that and leaning into that. I'm leaning into this way, but also, you know, lean, drinking a cup of lean.
Toe tags for the mentions, body bags for what they spending while they bragging. We descended from the ground, we all descendants now.
Toe tags for the mentions, body bags for what they spending because they're investing in these artists, and then all of a sudden these artists have overdoses, they die, and the body count just continues to rise. But they continue to make money and they continue to spend. And round it goes. I just want to talk about the production too on this.
For what they spending while they bragging, we descended from the ground, we all descendants now.
Sinners don't sleep in this broken town, trading their souls for some golden brown. Feel the release, come back down. But when I'm coming up, killers on the city streets, bagging it up. Crooks and addicts with habits get rushed. We living in vain just to end it all, and I spend it all on the fentanyl.
Oh, I forgot to also shout out the lines, but they said it wasn't selling. Insulin too, flipping. Wasn't selling insulin into that. Anyways, saw somebody comment that before, but just want to shout out that line. But this hook right here, what's really interesting me is how this song kind of came together, because I wrote this. I wrote the second verse a week after my cousin's funeral because it was so raw, and I just had to get it out. I had to get it out in some way, and that's what music is for me. Music is an outlet. It's a way for me to cope. And when I wrote this, I didn't intend for it to be released to you all. I wrote it for me. I wrote it for my release. And I wrote that second verse. And then what happened? A few days later, I was messing around with some other production and stuff. And yeah, I found something that I really like. I started messing with it. And then I wrote the first verse. And the first verse to me was originally going to be for a different song. But then I started to mess with that first verse. And I was like, hang on, this can tie in with the second verse. And there's a lot of parallels here. And all of a sudden I start getting sort of this song structure coming together. And then I gave it to Samad, right? And it had a different sounding beat, different stuff that I was working on. But I had laid down my first verse and my second verse at the time. I laid those down. And then Samad took that, right? Took the acapellas from the vocals. And this is where Samad is a wizard in what he does. And that piano, he played that piano in, added that piano. He added a more menacing bass. He added just such a darker, more distorted sound. When originally my sound was going probably more like conscious, classic boom bap vibes. But then we started going down this path, right? And then started messing and molding and tweaking that. And then it came to the point where I felt like we had a dope track, but then we needed something more. Like for me, I took that bow, that message that would have gone on the third verse, I put that in the first verse. So it's like, what do I do with this third verse? And then all of a sudden it hit me like, let's write it from the perspective of my cousin. Let's write it in his final moments, which is dark as shit, right? That's raw as hell to do that. But I just thought, yeah, let's speak from his perspective, because I think it's going to have more impact, because this is also a cautionary tale. It's also is hopefully to help others and to let others know that they're not alone, and hopefully provide lyricism and provide a story that others can relate to and empathize with. And I also kind of wrote it from the perspective of him, but from anyone going through addiction, anyone struggling at that moment in time.
Crooks and addicts with habits get bought. We living in vain just to end it all. And I spend it all on the fentanyl.
You hear in the back of the mix, fa, 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 fa. That's Ren the Wizard taking my fentanyl that I whisper at the very end, and then he just adds these little fa, 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 fa. So we've got first verse, second verse, and third verse done. We got a hook that I wrote that I wasn't really in love with. And then I gave this to Ren. And originally the plan was this was just going to be like a deeper cut on the album. Like I thought that this was turning into a dope storytelling track. I think a message that I wanted to leave as a cautionary tale for people. And yeah, then I sat down with Ren. And he starts doing Ren things. And this hook, he programmed all these synths into it. He started playing this, and he laid what he called a bed. He laid a bed of synths, right? Just to like help him figure out his harmonies and what he wanted to do. And it was dope to watch him work, because I've worked with a number of producers over the years, and just seeing like their different ways of going about how they create. So he lays down these different synths. He's humming to himself. He's constantly trying this, constantly adjusting. And then he'll jump back to like the first verse, and he'll make like a little tweak, something that he hears. He'll add that choir effect, right? He'll distort it a little bit. He'll cut some EQ on some stuff. Then he'll jump back, trying to lay this bed. Then maybe he'll jump ahead. Then he'll come back to this. And his mind is just, but it's so creative just watching how quickly he just jumps around. But he got this bed laid. And then all of a sudden, he starts da-da-da-da-da-da. And then we start going back and forth. We start talking about the lyrics. We start just bouncing off of each other, like throwing different words out there, throwing different ideas. And then that's how we laid out this hook. And next thing we know, this hook just gets laid down that he does right there in our session. And I'm sat back at the end of it, after we're done writing it, after we're done recording it, like, holy shit, we got a hit now. Like we took a song that was going to be a deeper cut on an album. All of a sudden, it's like, I've got like a hit. Oh, fuck. What am I going to do with this? Well, now we're going to have to do, we should shoot a video. We should promote this correctly. And that's really how it came about, from just being like a surprise track. Hey, I got REN on the album. For those who got the album, into, hey, let's drop this as a single. Let's do a music video for it. And I also love like it's like a song within a song, like this hook, right? Because it makes it a hit single. And I'm always a fan of when you can make people dance, when you can give them something to move to, right? While we're critiquing the industry. But then all of a sudden, it's so dark, and people start thinking about the message, and they start thinking about the lyricism. It's like, hang on, my body's doing this. I'm not in my head, but my mind is going, stop. No, you shouldn't be moving in this way. You have to digest this differently. And I did that on Family Curse, and I'm kind of glad that we did this for Fentanyl as well, and just took it in this direction. I also feel like his hook is like a celebration of like that sort of like dealer, drug, party atmosphere and lifestyle, and that switch up, and it matches his portion of the video so well too.
My cousin was a pitcher.
Shots like this is not B-roll. These are just dope as hell shots that we got.
My cousin was a pitcher on that curve. He got that scholarship on campus. He's the man. Throwing heat as he was hot as shit, but then he hurt his arm. Senior year's time to prove it.
On that curve, grading on an academic curve versus like he's throwing curveballs and then throwing heaters. He's hot as shit because he's on a heater, but also like he's hot. He's that guy on campus. He's that athlete on campus.
The man throwing heaters, he was hot as shit, but then he hurt his arm. Senior year's time to prove it. Started taking pain.
Oh, and for those of you who don't know baseball, because I'm making assumptions here, like heater is a fastball.
He was hot as shit, but then
obviously fastballs, lines, cocaine, drugs, tying back in with that.
hurt his arm. Senior year's time to prove it. Started taking painkillers so he could play and keep it moving. Scouts watching, couldn't lose him, so he took more and he kept using. Before he knew it, he's abusing fastballs and two seams. Too clean, but now he's losing weight. Drug test he failed, so they kicked him off the team. He tried to kick the habit, but he's mad that he had lost his dreams. He's sad, but he got off the lane. But all it takes is one reminder.
So for these shots right here, we're in a tunnel. And we've got a smoke grenade, a blue smoke grenade behind me. And it's tied around my waist. So as I walk, we're dragging the smoke grenade along with us. In this shot, which is clearer, we had one smoke grenade. And then we did the shot again going the other way when everything just starts to build. Because the idea was as the verse starts to progress and as he falls deeper and deeper into his situation and addiction, then this smoke is going to build and build and build. And then we tied multiple smoke grenades behind me. And at the end, like I'm like rapping, but like hold my breath, not trying to like breathe anything in and just lessen my lifespan because we just got blue smoke flying everywhere.
His mind, he couldn't help it. He was trying to finally settle. Midnight, he went outside. He was fighting with his devils. One hit, he told himself, it'll help me through this hell. I know I'm sick and I need help.
Yeah, you see that shot right there when it really starts to build?
With his devils. One hit, he told himself, it'll help me through
reaching through the smoke, and then right here you can kind of barely see me now.
hell. I know I'm sick and I need help, but one hit, man, what the hell? So he lit it, then he took it to the face. But as the story goes, you know that fentanyl is lace.
And yeah, I mean, that's, you know, if you could summarize a person's life and death in a verse, I mean, that's what happened to him. You know, he hurt his arm. He had dreams of playing baseball. He had scouts watching. He didn't want to let his team down. And he starts taking painkillers to get through it. He starts with Oxy. And those of you who know our Oxycontin epidemic and how horrible that's been with the Sackler family and everything, and people like getting prescribed such a powerful ass opiate for something simple as back pain, it's crazy. And then all of a sudden come to find out how incredibly addictive it is, and they're addicted to Oxy. So Oxy was like his gateway into getting hooked on painkillers, and then obviously leading into other drugs. And yeah, like I've talked about this a little bit before, and this is still hard for me. He was doing well, you know, he was doing so much better, and he was at a halfway house. He had a girlfriend, he had a job that they set him up with, and he had spent a few months clean, and it looked like he was doing all right. But that's all it is, isn't it? Sometimes it just takes one trigger, it takes one moment, and he suffered with his confidence and had such social anxiety, and he just I feel like he got to a point where he didn't know how to be himself anymore without the drugs, and he was suffering mentally, and he had his demons, and he was fucking fighting. And yeah, you know, one night he snuck out, and it was like it was gonna be, you know, one hit for him probably. And notice how I play on the baseball in the one hit, and yeah, unfortunately he was given a bad batch laced with fentanyl, and that was it, man. Like it was a concoction in the toxicology report that was in his system, but ultimately it was it was just a bad set, and RIP to him. And that's how dangerous and lethal this drug is, and it's so hard to detect, and you don't know, and this is what's causing so many deaths, and it's so sudden, you know, one hit and it's game over.
Sick and I need help, but one hit, man, what the hell? So he lit it, then he took it to the face. But as the story goes, you know that fentanyl is lace.
Sinners don't sleep in this broken town, trading their souls for some golden brown.
So for me, this is where I start to kind of embody my cousin, right? The second verse, the end of the first hook, the first deal is happening. This is me getting my first hit, right? So there's a big difference between that first deal that happens in the first hook and then the second hook, right? Now I'm desperate, right? I'm starting to get a little antsy. I'm starting to get a little agitated. Ren's just a cool, chill drug dealer, but you know, I'm saying, you know, like one more, like, and he's saying, nah, you ain't got enough money, son. Come back when you got more money, right? And then I pull out two, and I'm getting more and more desperate because all this angst and just showing this deterioration of me is what ties in with the third verse, which is about to happen.
Don't sleep in this broken town, trading their souls for some golden brown. Feel the release, come back down. But when I'm coming up, killers on the city streets buying it up. Crooks and addicts with happy skate road. We living in vain just to end it all, and I spent it all under Fentanyl.
And I call this his Anderson .Paak voice, right? This just like little playful tone and cadence that he has, that he used a little bit on the Kujo beatdown. He's used a little bit before, but like he used it a lot on this hook. And man, I told him I love that tone. I love him playing with it.
Just to end it all, and I spent it all under Fentanyl.
Took my heart, you took my fucking life. Took my pride.
Camera's about to die, so let me flip over before we get into this third verse. Yeah, so coming into this third verse, obviously, you have the blues, right? And a great complementary color to blue is red. And for me, red, danger, desperation, right? Blues, you're kind of chilling out. You're falling into that shadowy abyss. You're falling into those shadows, the cool blues, right? And then the reds really start to come out, and the reds shine through in the flares. And we have just some amazing shots revolving around this red color theme, you know, playing off of colors. It's very simple. Most of this is in black and white, but when we choose different colors, we want to just accentuate certain verses and certain moments and feelings and energy.
Took my heart, you took my fucking life. Took my pride, you took my mind. Took who I am and turned to vice. Took my fam, I burned the price. And now I stand on murdered time, and all my plans have turned to ice. I burn in fire, build this pyre higher.
Again, that is not B-roll or anything. That's a legit shot that we have. I mean, that's... Whoa.
I'm wired in this dopamine, get higher. Still a broken fiend, supplier of the hopeless dreams. When it's all smoke, the only rope's the one that chokes. Would they remember me? Take all my memories and light them on this fire.
Wired in this dopamine, you know, this rush to be lit up. And again, this is speaking from my cousin's perspective. And what I will say about this performance is this is one of the hardest visual performances I think I've ever had to give. If I look like super jerky and maniacal, because I'm trying to reflect him and the pure desperation and the homelessness at this point in time, in this moment. And the thing is, like, I knew that this was coming. I knew how hard this verse was going to be on me. So we saved this for the very end. So we had a long all-day shoot and then a night shoot. And this is like 4 o'clock in the morning. And these are like the last shots that we need to finish this. And yeah, we just hit play. And Sam just let that camera run. And there's a moment here at the end when I break down and I start crying. And like I cover myself up because I actually am crying. And I actually do break down. And after we recorded that take, we were kind of silent for a moment. Like Ruben came over, Sam came over to see if I was all right. And yeah, we just had a moment, but we didn't really need to have any more takes after that one because I gave everything into that performance, into this shot and into this last verse. And I shared it on my Patreon. I shared the full take, the full performance of me doing this third verse.
Took my heart, you took my fucking life. Took my pride, you took my mind. Took who I am and turned to vice. Took my fam, I burned the price. And now I stand on murdered time, and all my plans have turned to ice. I burn in fire, build this pyre higher. I'm wired in this dopamine, get high.
Built this pyre higher. I saw someone like comment on that, like pyre, like a funeral pyre that we're lifting up.
Turn to ice, I burn in fire, build this pyre higher. I'm wired.
Because we're burning fire, right? We're lighting up versus like the fire, the depths of hell, and our lives going up in flames. Like there's a lot of symbolism for me laced into this third verse as well with my writing and how I choose the poetry of all this.
Time and all my plans have turned to ice. I burn in fire, build this pyre higher.
Plans have turned to ice through death, going cold. But I love that sort of juxtaposition in play because we've had the cool blues and the reds, but playing on ice and fire in this sense, life and death, light and darkness.
And now I stand on murdered time, and all my plans have turned to ice. I burn in fire, build this pyre higher. I'm wired in this dopamine, get higher. Still a broken fiend, supplier of the hopeless dreams. When it's all smoke, the only rope's the one that chokes. Would they remember me? Take all my memories and light them on this fire. Fire for the crooked dealer, he who packaged hate. Fire for that greedy villain, he who had it laced. Fire for my future, that look on my father's face.
Fire for the dealer, right? Fire for him. I hope he burns in hell. That's my rawness coming out in the moment in what I'm saying. There's no forgiveness for me in these lines when I wrote this, right? And fire for the greedy villain, the one who laced it in the first place, to put the bad batch in, because my cousin was murdered. No way you look at it, he was murdered.
Gritty villain, he who had it laced. Fire for my future, that look on my father's face. My mother's still in tears, my cousin, he's too far away.
My mother's still in tears. That look on my father's face, because my cousin fell out with his father at the time, obviously. And then my cousin, he's too far away. That's me, right? I'm too far away to help, and I do feel that, and I do feel that guilt. In the, I don't want to explore that one here. Let's keep going.
Future, that look on my father's face. My mother's still in tears, my cousin, he's too far away. When they told me to get help, and yes, I tried again, but in the end, we're all just veins. And in the end, it came to veins, and in the end, I died in vain. And in the end, I tried to fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. 500,000 people gone from the opioid epidemic. And then 2023, fentanyl took 74,000 lives, 74,702. That's 74,702 too many, you know? And then we put the helpline at the end. But yeah, it's so true, you know, it feels like a death in vain. It feels like such a pointless death. And yeah, we are just all veins, and it all goes into veins at the end. And then, you know, from the earth we rise, and to the earth we return in the end. And for me, originally we just had the stats, and we just wanted to kind of let the last moment speak for themselves. That's why we cut to black, because again, like the narrative, I think, is telling it powerful enough that that's all we needed. And you hear me crying and sobbing there, and that's not acting. That's, again, when I recorded it, it was so recent to his passing that I just took all that frustration, all that anger, all that sadness, all that tragedy and loss, and I just poured it into this when I recorded this verse. And I didn't plan for that to happen, and I just let it play at the end, and I broke down. And for me, that breakdown is his final moments, when he takes that last hit, and then you hear him collapse to the floor, and he calls to God for help. And then it all just fades away into blackness, you know, like, unfortunately, him fading away into blackness. But I didn't want to just end it on that tragic note, right? While it is a cautionary tale, I also want it to serve as, you know, hopefully a light for others. And hopefully it helps to spread further awareness on this issue, because this is an epidemic that is just overwhelming the United States. It's an epidemic that's starting to spread around the world. And it's horrible, the amount of lives lost, the amount of lives touched by this. And this is only scratching the surface of everything going on behind the scenes. And listen, if you're suffering from addiction, if you're someone out there who's going through it, if you're trying to support someone who's dealing with addiction, please know that you are not alone, that help is available. And there are people out there, call this number. There are people out there who want to help. There are people out there who can help to give you the tools to get yourself better, to overcome this. And if you have fallen to addiction, there's nothing wrong with you. That doesn't make you less of a human being. That doesn't make you less of a person, right? We all have flaws. We're all human. We all have our weaknesses. And if you take enough weights and you stack them on someone, you pile one too many weights on them, their legs are going to give way. Nobody's invincible. Nobody's Superman. You know, we all need help, and we're not in this world alone. Yeah, that's fentanyl. Shout out to REN for helping me bring this to life. Shout out to Sam and Ruben and the whole team and Samad and everyone involved in this project. This was such an important message for me, and such a close to the heart, close to the chest song. But I couldn't think of a more amazing, talented group of people to be surrounded by to help me bring this one to light and bring this one to life. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that breakdown. Catch you again.